Look, it ain't over until it's over. It ain't canceled until it's canceled. There's a lot of cruise ships out there still scheduled for March 2021 cruises. That's 51 days until March. Which cruise lines, which cruise ships, is it even feasible cruising March 2021? Will it happen? Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Cruise News Show. I'm your host, Tony, here with the latest cruise updates. Well, here we go. We find ourselves in what we hope is the apex of the second wave of this virus that has wreaked havoc on our lives for the last 11 months. People want to be safe. We don't want to see people getting sick. We want people to go back to work and go back to school. We want jobs to open up. We want businesses to survive. And for a small segment of the population, we want to be able to go cruising again at some point. And frankly, the virus has made that impossible. And again, here we are at the apex. Hopefully the apex, the worst part, the high point of the bad in the second wave of this virus. But look, in reality, we got major cruise lines out there that have not canceled March of 2021 yet. We have some major cruise lines that canceled this past week. Most notably, Carnival Cruise Line canceled their March sailings. But we got some big players out there that didn't. And normally those announcements happen close together. And so, we go into next week wondering if we'll see more cancellations or if we'll see some sort of announcement that maybe test cruises have been happening and that they're preparing to cruise in 51 days. Now, you may be scratching your head and say, Tony, you just mentioned we're at the apex of the second wave of the virus. How could cruising happen? Well, 51 days in the scheme of the virus, that's a somewhat long time. We believe that this spike that we're experiencing right now comes on the heels of events that just happened a couple weeks ago, Christmas and New Year's. It was predicted that as people gathered over the holidays that we would see an increase in cases, an increase in fatalities, and that's been true so far, but now those events are in our rear view mirror, and as we deal with this spike, eventually it will hit its peak and drop off. And then you combine that with the vaccinations. Now everybody's saying the vaccinations aren't happening as quickly as they would like. Yeah, the vaccine's been out a little over a month. 6 million people in the United States have been vaccinated. There's 331 million people in the population, so it's just a small number of the population that's been vaccinated. But as that vaccination number goes up, as the case count goes down, the world starts to open back up again. Will that happen in 51 days? We know not. Of course, another challenge for the cruise restart is it's just not like flipping a light switch on. You were a business that shut down, that closed down, and then all of a sudden you could open back up. No, the cruise business has more regulation. They have more procedures that they have to follow. And so it's been a slow process since the no-sail order was lifted in October of 2020. Cruise lines trying to get up to speed, trying to get to a place where they could restart cruising. And so it leaves us with the question, are there any cruise lines out there that are even close to cruising in March? And are there any clues that would support the idea that cruising could resume in March? And yeah, I think the answer to both of those questions are yes. I believe cruise lines are working toward getting to a point where they could restart, and I do believe there are some clues out there. The first clue to me is that some of these cruise lines did not cancel last week when other major cruise lines canceled. That seems odd. That seems out of cycle. It could just be a 1 week delay and then we'll see cancellations this week, or there may be something cooking behind the scenes. Another clue that we could look at is the CDC's website, where they're tracking the status of cruise lines who plan to restart cruising. The first step in that process is whether they are at a place where they can send their crew members home or bring their crew members in through commercial means. This is the red, yellow, green system that we've heard about, and this is kind of the entry point for the framework for conditional sailing. That's what it's become, and we can look on that list and see if the cruise lines that haven't canceled yet, do they have ships that are in a green status? And yeah, so what cruise lines could possibly be eyeing sailings in March? Well, first up, let's talk about MSC Cruises. MSC has yet to cancel their U.S. cruises for March, and the question is, do they have ships in the framework? Is it possible that they could be eyeing a March restart? Well, they certainly do have ships in the framework. If we look at the CDC website, 2 ships for MSC planning to restart cruising in the U.S., and both of those cruise ships have a green status. So they are making progress there. No word whether or not they've had any of the simulated sailings that are required, but they are on the list. They have yet to cancel. MSC could be eyeing a March restart. Also on the list, Celebrity Cruise Lines. They have yet to cancel their March sailings, and they got ships in play. They've got 9 ships. They're listed here on the CDC website. You'll notice that 7 are green and 2 are red. So 7 ships, itinerary still on the books for March. Celebrity making a play at cruising in the next 51 days. Another cruise line out there yet to cancel their March 2021 itineraries, Disney Cruise Line. Now, if you look at the ships here on the CDC website, 3 cruise ships for Disney Cruise Line, only 1 in the green status, 2 in the red status. Seems like there's still some work to be done, but what I've noticed about Disney, I've tracked along with them on the Cruise Mapper website, and this will tell you where a cruise ship is. Interestingly, with the Disney ships, I've seen these ships move from ports in the United States to ports in the Bahamas multiple times. So their ships are going back and forth. I don't know if those are simulated sailings. That would be too much speculation, but there is movement on the Disney ships. Could this movement be indicative of a cruise line getting ready to go? Could this be trying to meet the requirements of the CDC? Could this mean there will be Disney cruises in March? Wouldn't that be wild if Disney was the first out of the gate on the cruise restart? It's certainly possible. And speaking of test sailings, you know, as soon as I hear about it, I am going to tell you the best way to hear it from me is to make sure that you are subscribed to this YouTube channel. Yeah, I'm going to give you the hard press today. If you want to stay up to date with what's going on in that cruise life, please consider subscribing with the notification bell on. That way you don't miss out on any of the cruise information, like test cruises. Thanks in advance. And there's one more cruise line that has a significant amount of ships, all in green status on the CDC's website. This is the biggest player that's eyeing a March return, Royal Caribbean International. 17 cruise ships in a green status on the CDC website. Many of these ships, you can track them into U.S. ports. You can track them into the Bahamas. A whole bunch of Royal Caribbean International cruise ships eyeballing March 2021 for a cruise restart. Now look, cruising in March may be pie in the sky, but there's really only 2 things that has to happen so that cruising can become a reality in March. They're big things. I mean, the stars are going to have to align. First, these ships have to get through the framework for conditional sailing. They have to be signed off on a ship-by-ship basis by the CDC. That means that right now there should be some simulated cruises going on, or in the very near future, we have to have simulated cruises. Everything has to be in place with the new protocols. And again, that has to be presented to the CDC. It has to be signed off on. That's a big get, right? That's a big challenge, but it's just one of 2 things. And then the second thing is we need to see a better profile of the virus in the United States. We really need to see the virus tail off. We need to see infection rates go down. Of course, we need to see fatality rates go down. But again, the virus is a lot's changed over the 11-month period. It's ebbed, it's flowed, it's spiked, it's valleyed, it's spiked again. Again, hopefully we're at the apex of the second surge, and maybe we'll see that thing just drop off as vaccinations come on, as people get through the second surge, as there's no more holidays. 51 days might not be enough time for that, but it might. And it might. So we'll look forward till next week to see if some of these other cruise lines cancel. But as for now, you got a few big cruise lines with a lot of cruise ships with their eye on cruising in March of 2021. Question for the comments are this: what do you think percentage-wise? What would you give it? 50%? Would you give it 80%? What do you think the likelihood of seeing any cruises in the U.S. in March of 2020 is? Leave a comment below. Thank you so much for checking out the show today. Please show your support by hitting the like button. This is Tony with Lido Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.